How are Trump supporters this stupid? You're the biggest rubes. I have nothing but disdain for you guys, especially with what Donald Trump was doing with the California federal assistance. I feel like California, I'm on board. Let's go. Let's secede. Let's have the U.S. without the California economy. Great. Fine. Yes. Everybody else, you're on your own. I don't know what to do at this point. I'm ready at this point, man. Logging onto social media when the fires were going on was horrible for my mental because it just like f***ed me up. I was so pissed.
Before we get into, there's so much substance. You are inheriting a lot of problems, a lot of things that actually scare me. Yeah. And I want to get to all of that, but I will get to all of that. They're
all solvable problems. Tom.
I agree.
They're all solvable.
Not easy.
With time, effort, money.
What about those egg prices? Can we get some news about the egg prices? I'm just saying.
Unfortunately, but they're all solvable.
You said you would fix it. I'm just saying.
We can get our country back. But if we didn't win this race, I really believe our country would have been lost forever.
Were there moments, I mean, when you think of what they threw at you, and I know you signed this declaration about no more weaponization, and we know that the preemptive pardons came up on Joe's way out, but you were facing a civil trial, a criminal trial, conviction, sentencing, Jack Smith, D.C., Florida, Fonnie Willis. I mean, you fought through all of that to get back right here in this office. What people don't know is over there's a little red button you push. You scare people. People think it's the nuclear button, but it's really,
something else.
It's you use it for a different purpose. But the question I have was, at any point, did you doubt you would be back here?
So it's a great question. It's something I don't think about. I never really thought about it. I don't think about, gee, will I be back? I just do it. I get it done. I get things done. I'm good at getting things done, and I set my mind to it. As you know, we had a great election in 2016. I had a much better election in 2020. And if I didn't have that election, I wouldn't have run. If I thought that I didn't get the number of votes, and it was reported that I got almost 75 million votes, and that was their numbers. That wasn't the numbers, that was their numbers. That was more than anybody has gotten in history, any sitting president had ever gotten. And you lost. Had I gotten like 50 million, or 40 million, or 60 million, I would never have run. But that was like a poll, but I had a different attitude. Too big to rig.
Poll came out just in the last 24 hours by Insider Advantage. That's Matt Towery. Mm-hmm. He nailed 2016, 2020, right, and 2024. Great pollster, as you know.
Right.
And he gave you a 56% approval rating. He also said of Congress, and I had a town hall with members of Congress last night, that 70% of respondents want Congress to unite behind your agenda.
I watched that show. It was a great show, and you had some great people in the background. Yeah. I know every one of them, and they're really patriots. I just saw the love, as the speaker, who was doing a terrific job. The speaker is answering questions, and I saw the acknowledgement and the love they had. And those are tough people behind him. These are not easy people.
There are others that are tougher.
I said, well, I don't know. This is a tough group if they want to be. They're not, nobody much tougher. But they're very unified. I think they're going to do a great job.
But they have a small majority. You went through over 200 since we've got here. And we have breaking news today that we'll get to in a minute. And especially as it relates to the border and some other issues. But you're going to need to do some of these things legislatively. You will probably play the largest role in uniting them both in the House and Senate. Reconciliation, the Senate has very strict, rules governing how they can do it. Do you, one big beautiful bill, two bills, do you care at this point?
I don't care as long as we get to the final answer. I like the concept of the one bill. I guess I said one big beautiful, and that's what everyone faces. Actually, it's sort of a nice sound to it. But I do like that concept. It could be something else. It could be a smaller bill and a big bill. Right. But as long as we get to the right answer. Now, I will say that Los Angeles has changed everything. because a lot of money is going to be necessary for Los Angeles, and a lot of people on the other side want that to happen. And
North
they want
Carolina,
it to happen
too.
fast. Well, they don't care about North Carolina. The Democrats don't care about North Carolina. What they've done with FEMA is so bad. FEMA is a whole nother discussion because all it does is complicate everything. FEMA has not done their job for the last 4 years. I had FEMA working really well. We had hurricanes in Florida. We had Alabama, tornadoes. But unless you have certain types of leadership, it gets in the way. And FEMA is going to be a whole big discussion very shortly because I'd rather see the states take care of their own problems. If they have a tornado...
Oh, my God. Oh, we're all so boned. Joe Biden, during his tenure as president, during his term as president, immediately released federal funds every single time there was some kind of natural disaster or emergency at a state level. Within hours, sometimes within minutes, sometimes before, preemptively, he released federal emergency funds. Red states, blue states, didn't matter. He did it his whole presidency. And one of the big criticisms that you always heard from idiot MAGA people was that he wasn't doing enough. Oh, he only gave them $750. First of all, the president doesn't determine the amount of money. That's the Congress that does that. So the whole premise was like, oh, well, Joe Biden and the federal government are not doing enough to support great states like North Carolina and Georgia. And then now, like a week later, after he's been inaugurated, he's like, you know what, Sean Hannity, you know what I'm doing? Yeah, I'm thinking about getting rid of federal assistance programs altogether for natural disasters. Do we need FEMA? What could go wrong with natural disasters that impact various states that don't coordinate with each other at all? Let's just let them deal with it. It'll be fun. Do we need FEMA? Like, what does FEMA even do?
Someplace, and if they let that state, Oklahoma is very competent. I love Oklahoma. 77 out of 77 districts. And that's never been done before. I did it 3 times. I mean, think of it, 3 times. Never been done. Ronald Reagan had the record, 56 out of 77. I got 77 out of 77. So you have to love a place like that. I love Oklahoma. But you know what? If they get hit with a tornado or something, let Oklahoma fix it. You don't need. And then the federal government can help them out with the money. The FEMA is getting in the way of everything. And the Democrats actually use FEMA not.
What did you just say?
I got 77 out of 77. So you have to love a place like that. I love Oklahoma. But you know what? If they get hit with a tornado or something, let Oklahoma fix it. You don't need. And then the federal government can help them out with the money.
I agree. You know what? F Oklahoma. I agree. Let them, let them handle it themselves. Fine. Yes. Oklahoma governor right now is like, what the
money? The FEMA is getting in the way of everything.
Oh, he's fully lying. Like, Joe Biden did not withhold aid, hold up aid ever, not a single time. I'm sure the thought didn't even cross his mind to withhold aid to ruby red states like Alabama or Oklahoma or Texas or Florida. Every single time he released emergency funds immediately started coordinating with governors immediately, every single time. And Donald Trump does this shit every single time. This is what makes me so angry with my fellow Americans for electing this guy. I get so angry that I don't know what to do with my emotions. The idea that you could take an action that would negatively impact millions of Americans because they live in a state that maybe voted for the other guy by a margin of 10 points. Dude, California has so many Republicans. There are so many Republicans here. It's just like we're a fairly blue state, but there's 40 million people that live here, and a third of the electorate are Republicans. And he wants to f around with federal aid. He did it last time. He's doing it again. I can't think of it's just evil. It's just evil. It's just an evil thing to do. To know that there are desperate Americans that are suffering and then say, you know what? I don't really like Gavin Newsom. He should have turned the water valve and raked the forests. I keep telling him, turn on the water valve, and he doesn't listen. Maybe we don't give them aid. Maybe we force them to sign on to our tax bill and then, mandate that the aid be a part of the tax bill, and then they can get aid. It's like he literally plays puff. He does the exact same thing, or rather, he does the exact thing that MAGA idiots were erroneously, falsely accusing Joe Biden of doing. Donald Trump is doing that exact thing, playing politics with federal aid. He just does it so openly. He doesn't try to hide it. He's saying it in the interview now, like, well, I don't know. Maybe we don't give them. Yeah.
And the Democrats actually used FEMA not to help North Carolina.
It makes no sense.
So I'm stopping on Friday.
It makes no sense because it's a lie. It makes no sense because it's a lie. In the case of Helene, he authorized emergency federal funds preemptively. He authorized those funds to be released before the hurricane even hit because they knew it was going to be nuts. He did it ahead of time. The idea that Joe Biden held up aid to North Carolina is complete bullshit. Let me just show you. Let's time it. Okay, here we go. I'm going to do, okay, stopwatch, start. Okay, I'm going to go to my browser. I'm going to type Joe Biden releases federal aid Hurricane Helene. Bing, bang, boom, boom. Now I'm clicked on a link and it shows $860 million for Hurricane Helene and Milton survivors. October 4th, 2024. That took me 20 seconds. It took me 20 seconds to look this shit up. But Trump has the benefit of most Trump voters are just now I'm on my petty shit. Right? These people enabled it, but they're mostly stupid. Literally, they're mostly stupid. Some of them are glaring contradictions and can demonstrate very high intellect and competency in various areas of their life. Good fathers and mothers and, whatever. They're successful in their careers, but politically, they're just brain dead. Like, if I hear someone make a claim like that, my instinct, it's a politician, right? So, if I hear a politician make a claim like that, oh, Joe Biden didn't do anything for North Carolina, I would look it up immediately. That's just my instinct. Just like, okay, is that true? And then look it up. It's obviously not true. So it's like a combination of ignorance, stupidity, and just laziness. It's just laziness. I can understand being an uninformed dipshit in the early 90s when we didn't have the internet, right? And if you're working a 10-hour shift that day, you don't have time to watch the news or read the paper or whatever, it's harder. It's harder to be informed. It's not hard. This is not hard to be informed in the 21st century. There's a lot of fake news out there, a lot of actual fake news and bullshit and blah, 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 whatever. And so but it's not hard to figure out what's bullshit and what's not bullshit. You're skeptical of something, find a different source, find a third source, find a fourth source, get double, triple, quadruple confirmation of stuff. If you want to be informed, if you genuinely want to be informed, you have that option. You can do that if you choose to. And so many people choose to take Donald Trump at his word. They hear a claim like Joe Biden didn't do anything for North Carolina, and they just nod their stupid, feeble little heads. Yep. True. It was up. He should have done something. And they're so lazy that they don't want to just okay, did he really not? That seems crazy. A president didn't do that. But it took me 20 seconds. It took me 20 seconds.
I'm stopping in North Carolina, first stop, because those people were treated very badly by Democrats. And I'm stopping there. We're going to get that thing straightened out because they're still suffering from a hurricane from months ago. And then I'm going to go to California.
Will you meet with Gavin?
I don't know. I haven't even thought.
I mean, how do you reconcile this with oh yeah, people are suffering, but also I want to get rid of all federal assistance? Is that how he thinks he's going to pay for his tax cuts? Is that what this is? Well, got to cut spending somewhere. Let's just get rid of FEMA.
About it. Look, Gavin's got one thing he can do. He can release the water that comes from the north. There is massive amounts of water, rainwater and mountain water that comes due with the snow, comes down as it melts. There's so much water, they're releasing it into the Pacific Ocean. And I told him it's a political thing for the Democrats. I don't know.
Played the tape. You said it to him in front of him in 2018.
I said it.
That's the other thing we're at now. Donald Trump's new thing is there's this valve, guys. Here in Southern California, there's a valve. Just a big old water valve. And if we turn the valve, bing, bang, boom, we'll get water. But for some reason, Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass, mayor of Los Angeles, they just refused to turn the valve. Why would they do that? Why would you not simply turn the valve, turn the water on, right? Even though like everyone intimately involved with the like operational details of the response to these fires, like everyone is saying the same thing, which is like, it's not that we don't have water, it's that the demand, we have a robust infrastructure that is in place meant to deal with fires, but the infrastructure that we have is simply not equipped to deal with the apocalyptic, like once in a generation level of the destruction from these fires. There were so many fires, and the fires were so big, and the winds were so strong, and the shrubbery was so dry because we had a drought this year. It just turned into a situation where even our millions and millions and millions of waters that was stored in reservoirs was not enough to keep up with demand. They're all saying the same thing. He doesn't listen. He doesn't care. Like, instead of that, it's like, oh yeah, no, they just didn't turn the valve. They just didn't turn the valve. Imagine being stupid enough to hear something like that from Donald Trump and thinking like, wow, that's crazy. They didn't turn the valve. Again, just pick up your phone and be like, well, that seems kind of weird. There's just a single valve and they just didn't turn the valve. Like, kind of hard to believe, right? Let me just look it up. It's like, oh, okay, well, it takes a minute. It takes 2 minutes, you know? Crazy.
To him in front of the media and everything else, and nobody talks about it. The media never picks it up. You put it out.
Because it's just simply not true. But the problem is we didn't turn a water valve.
I was so happy to see that tape because some people said, is that possible? They have water coming down from the Pacific Northwest, which is a lot of water. So much water that they'd have to let some of it go at some point. They don't need reservoirs. They don't need any. They're spending all this money on these reservoirs, and they're fake reservoirs. You know,
But the reservoirs were empty. The hydrants didn't work, and they're not.
Fake reservoirs? I don't know what that means. States will build reservoirs and store rainwater there so that we can deal with emergencies like this during long periods without rain, which California experiences on the regular. We store the water so we can use it for all kinds of stuff, not just fighting fires. That's the purpose of a reservoir. I don't know when you fake reservoir. What are you even talking about? What? You don't need reservoirs.
Are flowing down to the Central Valley. He's issued a memorandum calling for a plan to send more water to the San Joaquin Delta, to the Central Valley and Southern California.
Rhett Rodriguez joining us now live in Fresno with a breakdown on what this means going forward. Rhett, good evening.
Well, Emily and Eric, federal agencies will now have 90 days to discuss regulations and come up with plans to deliver water to the Central Valley and even Southern California, and then report back to President Trump. In the memorandum titled Putting People Over Fish, Stopping Radical Environmentalism to Provide Water to Southern California, President Trump directed the Secretary of Commerce and the Secretary of the Interior to come up with a plan within the next 90 days to change regulations to help route more water from the San Joaquin Delta to the Central Valley and Southern California. The president issued a similar order back in his first term.
But experts say solving the drought-stricken state's water scarcity isn't so simple. Quote, the president is injecting himself into a difficult, complex situation that people have been working on for years, says Tom Holyoke, a Western water politics expert at California State University at Fresno. There is no valve, he added. Big fish with a tiny fish. It seems an unremarkable creature. Slim, silvery, only a couple of inches long, yet Trump, in one of his first actions on re-entering the White House, has taken aim at a tiny, obscure fish called the Delta smelt. Smelt was once everywhere in the Sacramento-San Joaquin River Delta in Northern California, serving as a key food source for birds and bigger fish. But the diverting of water to irrigate the region's farms, along with pollution and wetland development, decimated the population. Quote, it was the dominant pelagic forage base for the estuary, said Andrew Weipel, a fish ecologist at the University of California, Davis. Everything ate it, including humans. In the 90s, state and federal officials declared the Delta smelt threatened with extinction, requiring a certain amount of water to flow through the river system to sustain its dwindling numbers. The rest of the water is pumped to irrigate farms and serve as drinking water for cities. Ahead of his inauguration, Trump accused Newsom of protecting an essentially worthless fish. He's just got this fucking axe to grind with this smelt fish, instead of sending more water to Southern California for the fires. In a day one memo titled "Putting People Over Fish," Trump directed his deputies to route more water away from the Delta to other parts of the state. But with Southern California's reservoirs above historic levels, a lack of water from upstate wasn't why some firefighters struggled to find water during the blazes. Hydrants ran dry instead because of spiking demand that made it difficult to refill them. John Boos, general counsel at the Center for Biological Diversity, a conservation group, said Trump is scapegoating the fish. There's literally no real connection between the fires in Southern California and the Delta smelt protections, he said. Trump's crusade against the fish arose during the 2016 campaign as he courted California Republicans who wanted to see more water flow to the farms. And just anecdotally, like when you drive along the 5, there's one highway, like the major main highway that goes up and down California. It's the 5. And, you know, you get past the Grapevine when you're leaving Los Angeles and, you know, heading to Central California or Northern California. And then it's just like 200 miles where every like 500 yards, there's some sign by an angry farmer that's like, Gavin Newsom sucks. Give us our water. You know, like almond farmers and shit. They hate him, these farmers. During his first term, Trump sought to expand California farmers' access to water at the expense of the smelt, but he was stymied by a lawsuit from California. Quote, "I don't think we should give California anything until they let water flow down," the president told Fox News on Wednesday. They talk about the Delta smelt. It's a little tiny fish like this. They say it's an endangered species. Well, how is it endangered? Wait, no wonder it's endangered. It's not getting any water. No! He's so stupid!
Sprinklers, it's nice. But you don't want to lose this office. By the way, how do you like it?
Well, I'm glad. It's great to be back. I'm not going to lie.
You know, I've had the biggest people in the world come here.
Yeah.
And they come into the Oval Office and they just look and they want time to look. They're looking around. George Washington, Abe, Honest Abe.
One day maybe we can do a tour. We had a conversation, and maybe I shouldn't disclose this, but I will. And it was after the 2020 election. And you asked me a question, and we've known each other for 30 years, so we have a friendship and we have a professional relationship. And the question you asked me, maybe in the end it will be better that if I came back in 4 years. And we talked about history. After World War II, Winston Churchill was thrown out, but they brought him back. Grover Cleveland is the only other American president that did not serve consecutive terms. And my answer to you was, I thought it would be bigger if you came back.
It's turning out to be bigger. And I think one thing is happening is people are learning that they can't govern and that their policies are terrible. I mean, they don't want to see a woman get pummeled by a man in a boxing ring.
No.
They don't want to see men in women's sports, in other words. They don't want to see them, and they don't want to have transgender for everyone. They don't want a child leave home as a boy and come back 2 days later as a girl.
Happening all over the place. It's so sad when that happens, guys. I hate it when I send my kid to school and then they come back a different gender. It's like, what the how did that happen? I don't know. It's crazy liberals. This is the world that they want.
A parent doesn't want to see that. And there are states where that can happen.
Oh.
They don't want to see taxes go through the roof. Like, this is the only group of people they want to raise your they say we want to raise your taxes. You know, if they...
A lot more to this smelt story than you think. I don't know if you saw this, but...
What happens when a group of scientists makes some...
I have actually watched this video on my off time. It's a little bit, yeah, maybe we'll watch it at a different time. But
they don't work with us on the Trump tax cuts extending. That would mean it would go back to the taxes. We got the largest tax cut in history. That would mean the taxes would go up more than any tax hike in the history of our country. And normally you'd say, that's got to be the easiest negotiation in history, because if they did that, how could they ever win an election? But they'll fight us on that. They fight us on things. It's incredible.
Here, I ran into...
They don't use common sense. In my opinion, the Democrats don't use common sense.
And common sense won the day in the election.
Yeah, but you know the amazing thing? I'm watching now. Now it's time, and, you know, a few months have passed, and the election's over and you see what happened, and it was a rout. I won all 7 swing states, and we won by millions of votes, the popular vote, millions. And nobody can even believe some of the numbers. And how about with African Americans, with Hispanics, with everything, how well we did? Nobody can believe the numbers. How about with youth? I won youth by 36 points. Now, maybe that's because
It's just simply not true. I don't know what to say. I mean, he didn't win the youth vote, let alone win it by 36 points. I mean, he improved with youth voters, but he didn't even win the youth vote. He's claiming he won by 36 points. Okay.
One on TikTok, I don't know, but I'm starting to have a very warm spot.
TikTok is going to be sold, right?
I think TikTok's
Well,
going to maybe stay around.
people like
I'll tell you, people want to buy it. People want to buy it.
But those that say they know say it's a spying app for the communist Chinese.
But you can say that about everything made in China. Look, we have our telephones made in China for the most part. We have so many things made in China. So why don't they mention that? You know,
Let me get to
the
some
interesting
issues.
thing with TikTok, though, is you're dealing with a lot of young people. So
They love it.
is it that important for China to be spying on young people, on young kids watching crazy videos on things?
I don't want China spying on anybody.
No, but they make your telephones and they make your computers and they make a lot of other things. Isn't that a bigger threat?
I'm sure that'll be part of your discussions with President Xi, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. Let me go to the border. We do have breaking news today. I ran into Tom Homan as I was walking in today.
Right.
And so far, 308 total arrests, 296 detained.
To be clear, this is actually below the daily average under the Biden administration throughout 2024. This 308 number, or 305, whatever the number is, of violent illegal immigrants that have been detained, that number is lower than the daily average that took place on Biden's watch in 2024. Let's just be clear about what these numbers are.
Detainees, and the first deployment of military assets to the U.S. border. The deployment includes active duty troops in the National Guard.
Right.
And here's my biggest fear and concern beyond the Iranian assassination squads is we now know.
Speaking of Iranian assassination squads, Donald Trump revokes Secret Service protection for both John Bolton and Mike Pompeo. Iran, if you didn't know, they want to kill Mike Pompeo and John Bolton, both of them. Just so we're clear. Which is just another thing that happens where you're like, I mean, I don't like Mike Pompeo, but what the they will probably try to kill him. They will probably try to kill him at some point. Donald Trump revoked their Secret Service security.
14 million. We don't know how many gotaways. We don't know the total number. But we have known terrorists in our country. We have.
Yeah, I think Pompeo like tepidly criticized him in a book. But for the most part, he's been unwaveringly loyal.
Known murderers, rapists. We have violent criminals, cartel members, gang members. Now, I would imagine if you came from Iran and Syria and Egypt and Afghanistan and Russia and China and Venezuela, you didn't come here because you want a better life for your children. I would imagine those known terrorists are planning an attack on our homeland. At a moment's notice, you're going to be in this desk, maybe sitting at this desk, or maybe up in the residence.
Ed Shaver, what's up, buddy? Thank you.
They're going to call you down in the Situation Room because our homeland is under attack. I would like to be wrong, but when you have known terrorists, you have to believe that they are going to attack our homeland. That would change their trajectory, that moment of your entire presidency. That has to weigh on you.
Yeah, it could be. And I know I've watched you for a lot of years, and you actually make one statement before you say that. You say 100% certain.
I do.
That's a pretty big statement.
And then I say, I pray to God I'm wrong.
Yeah, I hope you're wrong too. And I won't comment, but I tend to agree with you. It depends. We'll see what happens. Look, we have a lot of great people right now, a lot of great people on this situation. This was a...
Trump declassified the JFK and MLK files. Did that just happen? All will be revealed, says Trump as he signs executive order to declassify files on the assassinations of JFK, RFK, and Martin Luther King Jr. Here's my prediction with the JFK one. It's going to be a big old dud. It's going to be hella evidence that it was that it was the one guy. What's his name again? I'm getting old. My brain don't work so good. Oswald? Yeah. Everything's going to be declassified and it's going to be like, oh, yeah, this guy did it.
Gross miscarriage of common sense to allow people to come in. And I believe the number is 21 million people, and a large percentage of
Fetterman voted against advancing Hegseth, by the way. Okay.
them are criminals. All over the world. This is not just South America. This isn't, we talk Venezuela, that's a big abuser, but these are countries from, these
Iran,
are the
Syria?
Congo, countries that you don't even think of. The Congo has emptied their prisons out into the United States. We're not thinking about the...
To my Trump supporters that are in the chat, does it not bother you when he says shit like that that's just not true? There's like no evidence. There's no evidence. There's zero evidence that any country is emptying their prisons and insane asylums and then sending them into our country. There's no evidence of that. Like, if you're a Trump supporter, when you hear him say that, do you just kind of make a bargain with yourself? Like, that's just Trump being Trump. Do you believe him? Or is it kind of just like, that would upset me. Like if somebody I supported was just saying something so ridiculous consistently. So we do have a Trump person here. So Isaac, when Trump makes this claim that they're emptying prisons into our country, and there's no evidence for this, is there no part of you that's like, I wish you wouldn't do that? It's weird. Is there no part of you that's like, I wish you wouldn't lie about that? Weird thing to lie about. You do have that, but still better than Dems? Okay. You want us to turn on Trump so bad? No. Listen to me. I have no illusions. I am not trying to change your mind. I have no illusions that me or anybody else is going to convince you. Do you understand that? We've had 8 years of Donald Trump. His insane idiocy for the last 8 years. Okay. If you're still hanging on to Trump at this point, nothing I say is going to change that. I just want to get your perspective. So when you hear Donald Trump say they're emptying the insane asylums into our country, part of me is curious to know, is there any part of you that's like, I wish he wouldn't say that stuff? That's kind of weird that he's saying. Just like a little voice in the back, or do you hear it and you're like, yeah, that sounds about right. Hannibal Lecter coming in, they're going to rape and eat your daughter.
Congo, we're thinking about South America. It's much more than South America. Okay. But prisons from all over the world have been emptied out into our country by Biden, allowing it to happen. I don't even know if he knew what the hell was going on, but who would want this? I always say to people, you always...
Nobody, which is why, didn't happen. So,
to understand, like in a business here, you want to understand the other side. Why do they want something, et cetera, and you figure it out. And there's usually an answer, almost always. I don't understand, why does somebody want open borders and they say the vote?
We don't. We simply don't. Simply don't want open borders.
Okay, but I did well with the Hispanic vote, if you're looking at Hispanic.
Basically, so I've had some conversations with full-on Marxist Leninists that are like, yeah, no borders. I've had conversations with maybe like 2 people like that across 8 years of covering politics. And I've met maybe 2 people that were like, yeah, open borders. Everybody else I've talked to is like, yeah, of course. I mean, you can have sensible border policy, right? Can you give me, I would ask Trump, can you give me an example of a single Democratic politician that has come out and said we should have open borders? Just one, literally just one. Just one. In the Congress or otherwise. Throughout the country, local government too. Give me just one example of a Democrat saying, let's just have open borders. Just, can I get a name? Can I get a source? Just one person?
They say they do it because they want to think they're going to stay in power. It's going to be better for Democrats. I don't really believe that. Besides that, they cheat so much. They don't have to do that. They cheat so well. They're very good at cheating. The only thing they're good at, really.
Again, we touched on this yesterday. We forgot to cheat this time. That seems like a massive oversight. Like we rigged. It's true. We did rig it in 2020. I've personally voted about 40 times across 7 states. I did my part. Got my Soros check for $2,000. Helped a lot. Times were tough back in 2021. You remember that? And then I was a little bit surprised I didn't get the letter this year. I got the letter in 2020. Here are your instructions. Here are your fake ballots. I did my part. And then I checked the mail every day. In October, I'm like, it's going to be coming any day now. And it never came. I never got the fake ballots this time. I never got my paycheck. And I was like, something's going on. Like somebody forgot to do the rigging this time. It seems crazy to me that we would do it in 2020 and then get to do it in 2024. It just seems like a massive oversight.
Really is cheating. But here's the thing I ask. Why would somebody say that open borders are good, where jails and mental institutions from other countries and gang members right off the streets of the toughest cities in the world are being brought to the United States of America and emptied out into our country.
Like, holy shit, bro. I see you're a Trump supporter. Can I ask you a question? Do you literally think that Joe Biden wanted violent, illegal alien criminals to come into our country? Do you literally believe that? It was a secret plot by Democrats to like allow this to happen because we actually want violent criminals to come into the country? And do you seriously believe that? Or is it like an irony thing? Like, yeah, wink, wink. Biden is handled. He makes no decision whatsoever. Okay, let's just grant you that. Okay, Biden was literally weekend at Bernie's, okay? Didn't know where he was half the time, shed his pants he had to start wearing diapers, and even then it was kind of rough because it's like somebody got to change those diapers. Somebody's job was to gently lay Joe Biden down on his back and put his like legs up over his head and wipe his ass and use baby powder and shit. And those people, do you literally think that those people were like, how can we get a bunch of violent, illegal aliens into the country? How can we do that? Hutch, you made a career scamming creators with machinima? Spare me? I did what now? Can you elaborate on that? What did I do? I didn't get paid very much for that scam, let me tell you. If we were scamming people, I'm pissed. I got paid 40 grand a year my first year and 55 grand a year my second year at like arguably the height of my popularity on the internet. I got paid $55,000 a year. So if we were scamming people, I didn't get a cut.
Love our country. You have to like it. Why would anybody that likes our country, the Democrats, allow that to happen? And even now,
why indeed?
I watch them on television. They're trying to justify it. You can't justify it. The only reason it can be is two reasons. You're stupid, and I don't think they're stupid. I think anybody that cheats that much and that well is not stupid. You're either stupid or you hate the country. Those are the only two reasons. Sean, who would ask for open borders with people pouring in, some of whom, I won't get into it, but you can look at them and you can say, could be trouble, could be trouble. There are people coming in.
There are people with gang tattoos on.
There are people coming in with tattoos all over their face. Their entire face is covered with tattoos.
It identifies.
There was a part 2 to the Hannity interview.
In less than 48 hours, President Trump granted more access to the press than his predecessor did in 4 long years. Here's part 2 of our exclusive interview. What do you do, sanctuary states, by definition, or sanctuary cities, they're aiding and abetting in the law breaking. Okay, they're going to get federal funds.
Yeah. We're trying to get rid of them. We're trying to end them, and a lot of the people in those communities don't want them. You know, California is a big example.
Would you cut off their money?
I might have to do that. Sometimes that's the only thing you can do. Look, California is a great example of it. If you actually poll the people, they don't want sanctuary cities, but Gavin Newsom does, and these radical left politicians do. And, you know, if you asked them why, they couldn't even. I watched Gavin Newsom try to answer that question. He was unable to even answer. He looked like an idiot. He was unable to answer. I asked him one other question. Why is it that you don't want millions of gallons of water a day pouring throughout California?
Just turn on the valve, bro. Can't believe Gavin didn't turn the valve on. What a crazy oversight.
You know, the farmland in California is, they say, the equivalent of Iowa. Great.
Actually, now this makes sense to me because now I know a little bit of the backstory that I didn't know before. Like, he has a history with California farmers. And I'm, you know, he came to California in 2016, and all these farmers that are pissed that they can't just spend like infinite water on their almond farms, you know, got his ear somehow, and he's just been sticking to that story for the last 8 years. Now it kind of makes sense. There's like an origin story to the valve water thing.
But it's got no water, and you sit there, and it's literally, you can see it burning. It's on flame.
Sure.
All they need is water in that big farmland. And I ask them, why? How is it possible that you're not allowing this water? They divert it out to the Pacific Ocean, where it drops into the ocean. And you know what it's like? It's like nothing. To the Pacific Ocean, it's like 2 glasses of water. It's nothing. Millions of gallons of water is diverted way up north in California into the Pacific Ocean. That water, you know, they have the pipes in it. It's half pipes. You see them all the time, half pipes. People live in those half pipes now.
Shred the gnar, bro.
You know, they have homeless living in those half But this is water that millions of gallons of water.
How many of you guys have dropped into a half pipe before? It is one of the most horrifying things. It doesn't even matter if it's a 2-foot half pipe. You have to violate every instinct of self-preservation. What you got to do is you got to press the backside of your skateboard up against what's called the lip of the half pipe, which is like a little, little beam or whatever. And then you got to, with your front foot, you have to push down and just commit to it. You have to push down. And you're looking and you're looking and it's just down. It's just straight down. And you everything in your body is saying like, what are you doing? Don't do this. Because if you only push down a little bit and you push out a little bit, you fly backwards and hit your head. You have to just go fully down with it. I went through a little skateboarding phase when I was like 19, trying to impress a girl. And the first time you do it, I must have stood there for like 15 minutes, like summoning the courage to do it. You just got to push down, dude. It's horrifying.
A week and a day in some cases, depending on the flow. So much water they wouldn't know what to do with it. Your sprinklers would be filled. They can even, remember when I took criticism because I said you have to manage your forests. The head of a country that lives in forests, a number of them actually, Finland told me this, Austria told me this, head of Austria, head of Finland. And it was beautiful the way they expressed it. They said, we live in a forest. We are a forest nation. That's beautiful, isn't it, to say that? We have trees that are the most magnificent in the world, far more beautiful than what they have in California, and much.
Oh my God! The level of pettiness to be like, California's trees, not that great. Oh my God. Have you been to the Redwoods in Northern California, sir? It's right next to San Francisco. It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been in the entire earth. So goddamn beautiful. Have you ever been to Yosemite? Beautiful, bro. California's trees, whatever. Finland's trees are way better. Are you kidding me with this, man? The level of pettiness and immaturity that this man displays every time he opens his mouth is it just makes me awestruck. Did he really just talk shit about California's trees? Did he really just do that? DEI trees. DEI at it again, bro. Got too many black trees. Too many black trees. Too many DEI trees. The trees are trans because they don't rake the forest. Trees turn into trans people. I'm sorry.
More flammable. Mm-hmm. He said, we don't have forest fires. We manage our forests.
You can get a degree in forestry.
Well, they'll do cuts, yeah. Can you imagine? But you don't need much. You have to clean the floors of the forest. When they had forests, I go to see.
Does Donald Trump understand how big California is? It's huge. Bigger than most European nations. It is gigantic. The idea that you can, effectively clear brush would require so many people. you would have to employ 1 billion people to rake the forests.
See some of the sites I watched in California. They use billions of dollars of money, and they just said, look at what happened. Los Angeles, that's like a nuclear weapon went off. What's happened to Los Angeles? And that thing went for 4 or 5 days. Nobody was even fighting it because they didn't have any.
Imagine being a firefighter for the last 2 weeks, working your ass off, 16-hour days, you're hot as shit, literally risking your life. In the case of incarcerated firefighters, you're getting paid 10 cents a day. And then you turn on the TV and Donald Trump's like, nobody's even fighting the fires in California. They're just letting it burn.
Water. Their fire departments aren't funded properly. And the firefighters were brave as hell.
California Fire and Safety got a budget of $811 billion with a B last year, or million?
They were fighting without water. I mean, they turn on a fire hydrant. There's no water that comes out, and they're sitting, and the fires are running.
There was a state, a red state. I'll make it up and say Arkansas, that dealt with a fire in 2017, and their hydrant, they ran into a similar problem, and they had so much demand on their infrastructure that the firefighters were running into trouble getting enough water pressure from the hydrants. You want to guess what his response was there? Tweets about hearts go out to you. You're in our prayers. You'll get everything you need. Fire hydrants are running out just the same as California suffered recently. And then it happens to California and he's like, they're protecting a fish. Nobody likes the fish. It's an ugly fish, tiny fish. Fish need water. Just give them more water. Pull the valve. Just turn the valve. You can save the fish and fight the fires at the same time. I don't know why he doesn't just pull the valve.
Rushing at him at 30, 40 miles an hour. Those firefighters were brave. What happened to that state is incredible. And then you listen to
Arkansas is not California. It happens there every year. Yes, every year there are fires in California. We have a shitload of trees and brush. We have a dry climate. The weather's getting hotter. And when winds pick up, there are fires. The vast majority of fires that take place in this state are because of human beings. And the rest of them are like, 5 lightning strikes will cause various fires or whatever. And everything else comes from like human beings. Fires happen every year in California. Story at 11. Hey, did you guys know that hurricanes happen every year in Florida? Can you believe that? Why aren't they doing anything about the wind? They're not raking the clouds enough in Florida. Can you believe it? I told them last week, you gotta rake the clouds. Gotta rake them. There's too much clouds. Maybe even nuke the clouds. We talked about nuking the clouds.
I remember when Ron DeSantis and
California needs to build a giant wall to stop the winds. Just build a wall around California, make the wall 200 miles tall. We'll build it with beautiful rebar. The rebar is very tough to get through, very, very tough. Concrete and rebar. We're going to build a wall in California. We're just going to stop the winds.
Gavin Newsom were debating on your show.
Yeah.
And Newsom's talking like everything's great. Oh, everything's great, just great, just great.
Is that true? More acres of Texas than California burned this year. Is that true? Fact check. True. California has more forests than California, but climate plays roles in wildfires. The claim, Texas has more forest land than California, but 0 fires. With a record 4 million acres of California forest charred by fire this year alone, a Facebook post shared more than 25,000 times asserts that the Golden State would do well to emulate Texas when it comes to managing its timberland. Texas has more acres of forest than California and currently has 0 fires. Says the September 21 post by Scott Osborne of Texas. Same global climate, opposite forestry policies. The first contention that Texas has more forest land than California is not disputed by authorities in either state. Wait, when is this post from? This is from 2020. Where did you get the, in Texas, in 2022, Texas had 12,411 wildfires that burned more than 650,000 acres. While California had a record 4 million acres of forest charred by fire. Where did you get that claim? I don't know if that's true. I'm looking into it right now. It's not like Texas doesn't suffer from fires, but same global climate is pretty funny.
More people left California this year than ever have left in history before the fire. But look at it. Take a look. And the amazing thing, these are wealthy people. Many wealthy people lost their homes. I mean, just from a cursory Google search, Texas has a lot of fires. The smaller landmass, smaller population, so they're going to have less fires than California, but they have a lot of fires. On television, one of the wealthiest people, one of the most powerful people in the country, being interviewed as though he were a vagrant. His shirt was, and you have to know him, he's a mean, horrible human being. He's a tough guy. Very tough guy, a horrible person. Yeah. But he's
is he talking about Gavin Newsom right now?
Very rich. And
he's rich, but he's a horrible person.
No, he's a horrible human being. I know you have rich people that are.
What is he talking about?
Very nice. But this guy's a terrible person. So I say, that's so-and-so. I said to Melania, I said, look at it. They were interviewing him as a guy that lost his house. He said, they took my house away. And he's literally in his underwear and his T-shirt. It looked like he just got out of the bedroom. And I say, that's one of the wealthiest guys in the country. Look at this guy. Take a look at him. Somebody will tell you the name maybe after the interview, but you won't even believe it. But he was on television as somebody that, and he was complaining they wouldn't let him go to his house, which was on fire. They wouldn't let him go because, they don't want him to die. Some of the wealthiest, most powerful people lost their homes. And it looked like our country was helpless. This fire was just raging, and then it would catch to another air, another air, another air. There was nothing. It took a week and a half, and I've never seen anything like it. We look so weak.
Will you give, obviously Americans want to help other Americans in need, okay?
Yeah.
Fair enough, we do that. We got to help the people in North Carolina. They've been suffering.
Well, you know
We agree.
that's what I want to do. That's why I'm stopping there first.
You're going to stop in California.
I'm stopping in North
Should the
Carolina
money be
first.
contingent on them practicing the science of forestry?
Well, I think this. I'm going to put a statement out today, I think, and maybe it's already written. I said, I don't think we should give California anything until they let water flow down into their...
Just from the north to the south.
This is a political thing. I don't know what it is. You know, they talk about the Delta smelt. It's a little tiny fish like this.
I went out...
They say it's an endangered species. Well, how is it endangered? No wonder it's endangered. It's not getting any water. How do you... If you have a fish and you're stopping the water, isn't that going to hurt the fish?
I did a show in 2009 from the San
Damn it. He's got it, like, we just went over this. He's got it all wrong. Like, California took steps to make sure that, like, the river system had enough water. So, like, they limited the amount of water they could redirect so that this endangered species had enough water to survive. And now he's saying, like, gotta make sure they have more water. Why are you cutting off the water? Doesn't it help the fish? He's like, he is like a child. He is like a child. Like, he has access to the most sophisticated intelligence apparatus the world has ever known. And he can't be bothered to do a cursory Google search before he looks into the shit that he says. We turned off the water for the smelt fish. It's okay. California is losing tons of electoral college votes in 2030 and has established itself as a failed state. It's an interesting theory. A failed state. Interesting theory. You know, it was like the people in the South that were pissed because, you know, in popular culture, it was like very normal to generalize everybody that lives in the deep South as cousin f***ers and inbreds, and they have shitty teeth and they're slobs and they're all alcoholics and blah, blah, blah. You know, and they felt disrespected for a really long time. I never really did that, but that was like the thing. And these same people now, like, a fire erupts in California and they're like, yes, let it burn. Let it burn. Everybody there is gay. This is God punishing gay people. They turn into these monsters, these disgusting monster creatures. Anytime something bad happens, you know, like Florida gets hit by a hurricane. It's like, where can I donate money? Let me show up to volunteer. Florida strong. They buy like bumper stickers. Florida strong. Ah, ah. With God's grace, we will help you get through this. California, you know, suffers the worst fires in the state's history. And they're like, let it burn. Let those gay people burn. You little monsters. What's wrong with you people?
Joaquin Valley, Devin Nunes' district.
Right.
And they wouldn't give thousands of acres of farmland water to protect that.
By the way, you see that now. I drove up the highway. I was with Devin Nunes, another Republican congressman, and I looked at these vast areas of land, and it looked like it was just burning. It was dark. It was dry. And then there'd be a little patch, little tiny patch of green, beautiful green. And I said, how come all this land has these little patches? They said, that's all that we're allowed to farm because we have no water. I said, are you having a drought? No. They've turned off the water. They turned off the spigot from up north in order to protect the Delta smelt.
Let me move on to the
And by the way, I don't really believe it's the Delta smelt because...
Just none of like, that's not what is happening at all. He's saying that, like, there's this valve to get water from the north, and we just turned the valve off, and like now the smelt don't have enough water in Sacramento and the San Joaquin Valley River. But that's not the issue with the smelt. Is how much water do you divert from the San Joaquin River? Like his grasp of like the facts here is nil, none. He has no understanding of what he's talking about at all. Not even a basic, rudimentary grasp of anything that he's talking about here.
Nobody could do that.
It's
not endangered either. They have it in other locations, et cetera, et cetera.
They're doing seemingly everything they could do, like New York is in many ways, to chase people away.
No, but can you imagine today?
It's crazy.
When people, and the press doesn't like, when I talk about the water that they're turning into the Pacific, the press never wants to put it on. The fake news. They don't want to put it on, Sean.
You do realize that you have permanently tattooed into the forehead of legacy media the term fake news. You do realize they spent 9 years, 9 years attacking you from the moment you came down that escalator, and they didn't stop. And here's the interesting part to me, is that
Can't stop, won't stop.
all of the attacks, all the weaponization, all the FISA warrants, all the Russia, and we can go on. All the various venues, the J6 committee, which kept out a lot of pertinent
And
information.
how about the J6 committee? I call it the unselect. You know, they say the select.
But they didn't win.
No.
And now, again, we talked about it briefly before, but he has forced Mike Johnson to announce their own January 6th subcommittee, where it will be the job of whoever's on that committee. I don't know, 6 House Republicans, insane people, Jim Jordan, James Comer. They're going to do their own subcommittee with their own hearings, and they're going to invite like January 6 people that were arrested to come and testify and be like, they let us in and gave us a fucking tour and blah. Yeah. Like full on Pravda. Yeah.
No. What they did was criminal. That's why they got pardoned.
No, I was
they
saying
deleted and destroyed all of the information that they collected over.
It's all public. You can look at it on a website right now. The website is still up. This idea that they destroyed all the evidence. Anybody can go to the website. Like, why would they destroy the, like, that doesn't even make any sense. First of all, these were public hearings. They went over the evidence, like, publicly on live television. Millions of people watched it. And yet they destroyed the evidence? What the f are you talking about? What is it? What are you even talking about? How are Trump supporters this stupid that they believe this shit?
They need a pardon.
And you know why? Because it proved I was right. All of that information was deleted and destroyed. They deleted all of the information having to do with the 10,000.
Why would Trump lie about that? He doesn't make claims that aren't true. Done with you, bro. Can't look at this for the next 4 years.
Soldiers that I offered to Nancy Pelosi, and she's now on
All
tape
5 people,
admitting it.
I have 4 of the 5 people on tape, and General Milley was the 5th in writing, all saying that you authorized it in the days leading up. The Capitol Police Chief asked for the guard, was begging for the guard. Muriel Bowser, in writing, denied the use of the guard.
But Nancy Pelosi even more strongly denied it.
She said that.
She was responsible for the whole thing.
She took responsibility.
She was and she took responsibility for her daughter.
Yeah.
When it was exposed, they found the daughter's tape, a videotape of her mother saying that she was responsible.
This is the difference in leadership between Nancy Pelosi and Donald Trump. Nancy Pelosi's impulse on the day that it happened was to take responsibility for what happened. To like, the buck stops with me, blah, blah, blah. That was her instinct. She was pissed at herself because like she assumed, oh, I could have done more in this moment. Nancy Pelosi and Muriel Bowser. Muriel Bowser is the mayor of DC. Is it a mayor? Is it a governor? How does that work? Neither one of them are in charge of the DC National Guard. They do not control the DC National Guard. Anybody can just look up, like, again, I use Microsoft Edge now, so I guess we're binging things now. Let me just bing it real quick. Who is in charge of the DC National Guard? The President of the United States is the Commander-in-Chief, the District of Columbia National Guard. Command is exercised through the Secretary of Defense and the Commanding General, Joint Force Headquarters, District of Columbia National Guard. The President is in charge of the DC National Guard. Period. End of story. Nancy Pelosi can't usurp Donald Trump's authority on January 6, 2021. She didn't have the authority to order the National Guard. He did, and he chose not to. Pence had to be the one. To make that order. And he didn't even have the authority to do it. They listened to him, thankfully, and said, get the Guard in here now. Donald Trump never even issued an order to get the National Guard to go in there because he wanted it to happen. Because it was the point.
Responsible. And you know what? And they try to lose it. But
let me move on to the
unselect, remember this, the unselect committee, these people that were appointed, all Democrats, plus 2 worse than Democrats, that's crying Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney, who lost her congressional seat by more than any person in the history of Congress. She lost by a number that nobody has ever lost by. You know why? Because usually when you have a poll and you're down by like 40 or 50 points, you're smart enough to drop out. She should have dropped out. At least she wouldn't have that moniker.
Before I go to the economy and foreign policy, as long as you brought up this topic, Joe Biden, Chuck Schumer, Adam Schiff, who got a preemptive pardon, all these people that got pardoned, Anthony Fauci, did he know that NIH money through the EcoHealth Alliance was funding the Wuhan Virology Lab? There seems to be text and messages and emails that went back and forth. You talk about the Unselect Committee, as you call it, the January 6th committee. They had a predetermined outcome. General Milley, all these people, the Biden family members, Joe Biden.
Trump hired Milley, for example, for the record. He brought Milley into the cabinet. That was Trump's pick. Trump's own general that he picked years later would go on to say he's a fascist to his core. General Mark Milley, who Donald Trump appointed to be inside that cabinet, would go on to tell Bob Woodward that Donald Trump is a fascist to his core.
Ran and said he would never do preemptive pardons. It was an issue that came up when you were leaving your first time.
He thought, he heard that I was going to do it. I didn't want to do it. I was given the option. They said, sir, would you like to pardon everybody, including yourself? I said, I'm not going to pardon anybody. We didn't do anything wrong.
Pardon like, how many? He pardoned like 200 people on his way out the door, Donald Trump did. He pardoned, for example, military service members who were convicted of war crimes. He pardoned like friends. He gave like friends. He pardoned Scooter Libby. He pardoned Janine Pirro's husband for tax evasion. He pardoned Manafort. He pardoned Roger Stone. He was handing pardons out like candy. So part of me, I get the criticisms of Biden's pardons. To be honest with you, I don't love them. I wish he hadn't have done them. And at the same time, don't ever let a Republican lecture you about Joe Biden's pardons. When Donald Trump did like over 200 fully corrupt pardons. He pardoned Flynn, exactly right. Pardoned Bannon, yes.
And we had people that suffered. They're incredible.
Kushner's dad, like, why did you pardon Kushner's dad again? Kushner's dad who hired a prostitute to, what was it? What was the story that he did? Kushner's dad hired a prostitute to seduce like a family member, like a brother-in-law or something like that, so he could blackmail him. Was convicted, I believe, of tax evasion as well. Pardon him. What was that all about?
We had people that suffered. You had Bannon put in jail. You had Peter Navarro put in jail. You had people that suffered. And
Bannon scammed Trump supporters with a phony let's raise funds to build the wall fund. Stole from Trump supporters. Him and a few of his buddies set up a fundraiser. Like, they're not going to build the wall? Fine, we'll raise the funds ourselves. And then he just pocketed like millions of dollars. He shouldn't have gone to jail for that? Okay. Interesting.
And far worse than that, they've lost their fortunes. They've lost their whatever, their nest egg, paying it to lawyers. And those people... And people said, and they wouldn't have even taken, most of those people, they wouldn't have even taken a pardon. This guy went around giving everybody pardons. And you know, the funny thing, maybe the sad thing, is he didn't give himself a pardon. And if you look at it, it all had to do with him. I mean, the money went to him.
Should Congress investigate that?
Well, I don't know. It's, you know,
you ordered the DOJ?
I've always been, look, he didn't give me.
Will you order the DOJ? Like, this is like, what is the framing of that question? What is the framing of that question? Presidents? Well, they will now. I guarantee you that. There is a 1,000% certainty that he's going to call Pam Bondi, get over to the Oval Office. We need to talk. He's going to sit her down. He's going to be like, look, I need you to look into Biden. That's not what presidents do. That's not what presidents do in this country. They don't order the DOJ to do anything. People were like, a lot of lefties were pissed because Biden didn't order Garland to go after Trump. Never called Garland into the Oval Office and said, I need you to look into Donald Trump. Presidents don't do that. Obviously corrupt. If a president wields the DOJ as their own political weapon, we don't do that in the United States. Thoroughly corrupt for obvious reasons. So why is Hannity asking, are you going to order the DOJ? The framing of that question implies that that's what presidents do, and they don't. That's not what we do here. I guess we do now. That's where we're at. Okay.
Himself a pardon. And he did give some other people a pardon that needed it. And I heard Schiff went to him and just begged him for a pardon because Schiff is a crook. Yeah. Schiff is a crooked guy. He's a crooked politician. He made up the story about...
This is Donald Trump making a not so thinly veiled threat to stick his DOJ on a sitting member of the Senate. You idiot Trump supporters. You pea-brained idiots. He's just doing it out in the open. You don't give a shit.
About Russia, Russia, Russia. He totally made it up. He was a storyteller. And then after he made it up, they found out.
Historically, we don't do that here. We don't do that. We don't have presidents order the DOJ to investigate their political rivals serving in the Congress. The Congress is a co-equal branch of government. It is meant to be a check on the presidency. It's meant to share power and to make sure that all power is not consolidated into one person's hands like a king. That's the purpose of the division of powers. And we have him here just very not so subtly saying like, maybe we're going to go after Schiff now. And you idiot Trump supporters don't give a You think that that's what Biden did. There's no evidence, none whatsoever, that Biden did anything resembling that. In fact, the bulk of the criticisms that we see towards Biden and Garland from the left is like they didn't act decisively enough. There's people on the left that think that Biden should have like done something, like told Garland to make it happen. But we don't do that in America because it's corrupt as shit to do that. And here's Donald Trump straight up just like, I don't know, Schiff, maybe he's got something to worry about. I don't know. No, you don't have evidence. No, you don't. You have no evidence, Slim Chunk. None whatsoever. Nothing. Zilch. Zip. Nada. That Joe Biden was in any way involved or in any way influenced any investigation into Donald Trump. Nothing. Because he didn't do that. He didn't do that. You have nothing. And if you're upset about that, if that's what you perceive to have happened, you should be infuriated about this. The whataboutism shit doesn't even work here. Like, if you think that Biden did that and it was wrong, okay, so is this wrong? Is this wrong to you? Do you think this is wrong? This is what these MAGA pea-brain morons and idiots, this is the trick that they play on themselves. Well, Biden did it 10 times worse, so, you know, like, Trump doing it is based. It's just retribution. Idiots. You're so stupid!
That there was a tape of the conversation made by, you know, I guess, the State Department. I don't know. When you make calls, they make tapes sometimes, not all the time.
He was the one talking to the Russians.
So he, in the meantime, made up the conversation totally.
No, Slim Chunk. No. You said that there was evidence, or you implied that there was evidence that Joe Biden was personally involved in any investigation into Donald Trump. That's what you said. And now you're telling me that a lawyer moved out of the DOJ and then went to New York? That's your evidence? That a lawyer moved out of the federal government and went to New York? Really? Do you have evidence that Biden had anything to do with that? Oh, so it wasn't Biden, it was like the cabal of people. You people are so stupid. You're the biggest rubes. I have nothing but disdain for you guys, especially with what Donald Trump was doing with the California federal assistance. I have nothing but disdain for you guys. I wish nothing but the worst for you. I hope the worst impacts of this Trump presidency, and it's going to get bad, especially if he does these tariffs. I hope your energy bill doubles. I'm getting real petty with it. I hope your health benefits get slashed. Swear to God. I swear to God. I have nothing but disdain for you guys. F you. You know what? I feel like California, I'm on board. Let's go. Let's secede. F you. Let's see what... Yes. Let's have the U.S. without the California economy. Great. Fine. Yes. Everybody else, you're on your own. I don't know what to do at this point. You know, I understand it's going to suck to lose all those electoral college votes, but I'm ready at this point, man. Logging onto social media when the fires were going on was horrible for my mental because it just like f***ed me up. I was so pissed reading this shit. Like, they do this thing where it's like prayers and we're sending God's love to you in North Carolina, and oh my God, the devastation, the suffering, oh my God. And then California suffers the worst fire in our state's history, impacting thousands of people. People died, you know. the worst fire in our state's history in terms of damage to the state. Like, it really f***ed everything up. Like, it f***ed my life up for like a week. It was stressful. And I didn't even, you know, and I don't want to play victim because I got lucky. I didn't have to evacuate. I didn't have my house burned down or whatever. And you sociopathic morons, you pea-brained sociopaths, you've become so ugly through and through. Now this is the pot calling the kettle black. I'm like, f*** you, you're stupid, you fucking idiots, f*** you, I hope you die. And then it's like, you know what, where's your humanity? 2 seconds later. This is what politics is in the modern era. It's just, it is what it is.